Today we're meeting Effie Phillips-Staley, candidate for New York 17. It's a D+1 district, but it's currently occupied by a right-wing shithead by the name of Mike Lawler, who's a Republican, AIPAC stooge, pretty much an overall villain. Effie Phillips-Staley is a progressive Democrat running for Congress in New York 17th district, a critical battleground seat that could help flip the House. Effie is a Tarrytown Village trustee. I'm going to ask her about what that means. She spent her career fighting for education, immigrant justice, affordable housing, and working families across the Hudson Valley. She's running against a number of centrist Democrats for a seat that is currently held by Mike Lawler. She's a champion of human rights, which led her on a recent fact-finding trip to the West Bank. Now she is facing an uphill battle against big money from corporations, corporate PACs, and of course AIPAC, to win one of the most hotly contested seats in the country. Hi.
They're here.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Thanks
I think
for
we
having me.
swapped the seats. I think we swapped the seats. I'll sit on the uncomfortable chair and we'll put you in the comfortable one, and then Noah, can you give your
Let me take it off.
microphone to you? Good?
I'm great.
All right. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Question on everybody's minds. Where is Tarrytown, and what does it mean to be a trustee of Tarrytown?
Got it. Everybody's minds. So Tarrytown is just north of New York City.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, on an express train, it's like 35 minutes. But it's a village. That's like the smallest municipality in New York. You know, village, town, city goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
So it's a village, not even a town.
So yeah, but
So the name is a lie.
I never thought of that.
It's Terry
and
Village.
you were right. It is Terry Village. It is
So,
the
okay.
village of Tarrytown.
As a trustee, why have you not changed it to Terry Village?
You know, I'm going to get on that. I'm going to
Okay.
take it to the next working session, and we're going to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's essentially like being on the city council.
Okay.
So yeah, there's 7 of us, including a mayor.
That's cool. You're running for New York 17.
That's right.
It's a D+1 district.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's currently occupied by one of the most annoying villains in New York politics,
Villain is the word.
Mike Lawler.
That's right.
You're running up against a bunch of centrist Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
But before we talk about the primary, why are you running against Mike Lawler? He seems like such a nice guy.
Well, it's running against Mike Lawler, but it's also sort of running against the establishment. We know Mike Lawler has to go. We know he's a liar. We know he only cares about his own power, and he doesn't care about being a public servant. So the guy has to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to run. Well, first I was asked to run. I was asked to run by local Hispanic activists after Trump won the second time, because we knew how bad it was the first time. And because I was a local elected, we were talking about what we could do to protect people, to make things better, and they said you should run for Congress. And I thought, okay, that wasn't the first thing that came to mind in this moment, but the challenge with the Democratic Party is that they do a really terrible job of taking care of the people that should be in their base. And I say that because Hispanics make up, and I'm speaking about Hispanics because my mom is an immigrant from El Salvador, right?
Yeah.
And this is something that's been important to me, obviously, for a long time. But they make up, 25% of the village that I live in, something like 25 to 30% of the district. And yet the Democratic Party never does canvassing, never reaches out, doesn't pay attention to communities, and it's because there's a perception that these communities don't vote.
Yeah.
So when I was asked to run, that was one of the first things that I thought about. I thought, are these other candidates and is the Democratic Party going to do the work of going into communities, earning trust, and developing the policies that need to happen and turning out the vote? And the answer is no, because they're too busy trying to figure out how to convert moderate Republicans.
Yeah.
And to me, that is a structural barrier. It's a massive problem. And that's why I decided to run. And going back to Mike Lawler, of all of the candidates in this race right now, he's the only one who gets it. He's like the only one who turns up in Hispanic communities and tries to sway them over, despite failing on the policy level for pretty much any working people at all. So that's what got me in there.
Yeah. Do you feel like Mike Lawler looks a lot like J.D. Vance? Or is that just me? Because I feel like he has a J.D. Like, there's a thing with the way these guys look where they look like they have guy liner on.
Guy liner.
And I don't know. Do you agree with that?
I try not to look at Mike Lawler.
I agree. That's probably why he can't turn out the Hispanic vote, because they're like, oh, get away.
Right. If only if that were. If only.
I'm no longer. I'm now demonstrating voter apathy. But they say when he shows up at their doorstep.
When he shows up at their doorstep, he calls himself Miguelito. He tries to be relatable in
Wait,
that
is
way.
he Hispanic too?
No.
Oh, okay. No. I didn't.
No. I mean, you
never know.
It would be. It's true. You never know. One never knows by how a person looks. But I don't know. Do I think he has guy liner? No, I've seen him up close. He doesn't.
No, I don't think J.D. Vance does either. They just have that shadowy, they have that natural eyeshadow that comes from being an evil Republican.
I try to imagine them without their beards, actually. Not too much, because I don't want to think about them that much, but I think they would probably look.
Well, J.D. used to rock the no beard look. He rocks it now. So I was going to ask you about your background and how it actually factors into some of your policies.
Sure.
Specifically on the immigration agenda. Obviously, the Trump administration has really accelerated their white nativist anti-immigrant agenda. They are black bagging our neighbors, basically. Right. This is an unaccountable force. What do you, how do you feel about that as someone from this background, someone in a community, someone that represents a community with a lot of immigrants in it? And what are your policy suggestions?
Got it. I mean, the direction of this nation and the one that you just described, that Trump is taking, that Mike Lawler is carrying his water for, to me, is the most anti-American platforming imaginable. Because, I exist as a person whose mother is an immigrant from El Salvador, and my dad was a working class, high school educated guy from Oklahoma, right? Only in a nation that is pluralist do we all get to exist in this way. Where else would I be in the world except for here? Yeah. And to try to frame our nation as something that is anything other than that is anything other than a nation of immigrants who came here for better or worse, in good ways and bad ways, that is the defining condition, and anything of this supremacy nonsense is just a lie, and it always, it exists as a power structure, but it's always been wrong. Yeah. Right? So,
the attitude was different too, not that long ago when you think about, Ronald Reagan is the devil, but when it came to offering amnesty to a lot of immigrants, and also on top of that, the way he communicated about what it means to be American. You can be from anywhere around the world. This is the only country where you get here, you live here, you work here, you can say you're an American.
Yes.
It's unlike any other country. And it was a part of the exceptional nature, I guess, of America in some ways. One of the defining characteristics is the thing that I think is very redeemable about America. And yet there's this betrayal of the social contract. So what are the policies that you would advance as far as alleviating this pressure from migrant communities?
There are so many. To me, the most critical one is we describe as abolishing ICE, which is what that is. But it's really taking a look at the way ICE came into being and the Department of Homeland Security came into being in 2003 in response to the war on terror, where you took what used to be immigration and naturalization, right, which is what my mom came through in this country, right? And then they conflated it with customs enforcement. And when you put these two together, you can get comments from another candidate who won't say abolish ICE and talks about the importance of drug enforcement at the border. Yes, drug enforcement at the border is important, but that has nothing to do with my mom coming to this country. Yeah. Right? And so to have it structured like that is what sets us up for this kind of tyranny. And that's what we have to do. So much of what we have to do when we take back Congress and we take control of the U.S. government is to sort of look at the infrastructure that we have and figure out how to make sure that it is set up to be equitable. Like when Trump took away, only allows English on government websites, so say for housing. It used to be in 40 languages. Now it's just English. That cannot be. People in this nation have to have access to this information. They're entitled to it. It's a denial.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that we have to look at structurally, one by one, just to make sure. And I think for me as a candidate or as a human being, we have to put people first. We have to look at laws and policy critically and say, is this enabling people to live their best lives? And if it's not, then there's something wrong with that, and that's what we have to fix.
Absolutely. So El Salvador is currently run by a Palestinian. Unfortunately, he's not some of the best that Palestinians have to offer, but he's pro-Israel, and he's most famous for building the world's largest, concentration camp.
Yeah.
And it's now housing undocumented immigrants from the United States of America. It's a horrifying process. As a Salvadoran, how does it feel having your country be viewed by America as a distant place tied to policies that punish the most vulnerable among us?
I think it is. It's tough. I mean, I just took my mom back to El Salvador for the first time in 10 years, a year ago. And we were able to go, and I took my family, who, to be honest, because the country is so violent, I never thought that I would be able to take my kids there. Mm-hmm. But we did. And it was safe, but it was safe in a way that you would never want a country to be safe, because it's totally, it's like a police state.
Yeah.
And that they suspended, although I will say I heard from many people, and Salvadorans are the kindest people, and it is the most lovely country. But people said that, the Mara, the time of the gangs, was worse than the Civil War. So they kind of accept the conditions that they're in because of the level of violence there. But it is, and to be plain, that El Salvador has always dealt with dictators. But to have the safeguards to prevent dictatorship removed, so Bukele can continue. To have this, to suspend due process.
Yeah.
In a place where due process is already kind of tenuous, but to
dragnets.
To suspend it and then have CCOT, the prison. I mean, this is what really gets me. This is not the model for how any country should be, and it certainly isn't the model for how the United States should be, or what the United States should be involved with.
Yeah.
But to have Republicans go to CCOT, tour it, and act like this is some wonderful thing, maybe we should try it, and then set up this kind of awful deportation into this horrendous prison, this is disintegrating our democracy. El Salvador should not be the model for our democracy.
Yeah.
It's got to be the other way around. Yeah. And so...
Well, our prison conditions aren't so great either, to be fair.
This is true.
That's why there's... True. Well, I think El Salvador is one of the only places where you could actually, and lawyers have done this, successfully deny prisoner transfer to on the conditions that it is so inhumane that judges will actually literally straight up deny a migrant that has actually been convicted of a crime to go and be sent to CCOT. And yet we're sending people who have done no crimes to CCOT right now, just simply under the suspicion that they might be illegal, with ridiculous conditions like the tattoos that they have, things that don't actually normally would fit that profile at all. But one of the other questions I had for you is that you recently went to the West Bank.
That's right.
And it was a couple months ago. You went to the city of Hebron.
Yes.
And you met with Palestinian farmers to learn more about Israel's occupation of the land. You described the genocide of Palestinians as the Vietnam of the younger generation.
Yeah.
What did you witness firsthand, and how do you think that translates to implementing policies back here at home?
So what I witnessed is what many of us have read about, have heard about, have seen in the news. But what I witnessed was speaking to people firsthand about the direct impact and seeing the direct impact. And I have to say, it is appalling that our tax dollars go to support this kind of, it's a terror, like these people are living in terror. We visited a family in a town called Susia, and it had a settlement pop up on one side, and they found an archaeological site on the other, and this is the justification that they used to sort of squeeze out the people off the land that they've been on forever. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this, like, when we were sitting in his home, he was so kind, you know, his whole family was there, you know, every age, like a beautiful family. And he had all these awards and things on the wall. Like one of them was like graduate students from Harvard visited at this time. And so you see evidence of people from around the world going to bear witness, and yet nothing changes. And at that time, his fields had just been sprayed with poison from a drone that was sent over from the settlement. You know, as we were leaving, the settler who was, I mean, sort of the main agent of the terror that he was experiencing, was just on a horse on the perimeter, just watching, you know. And then after we left, I mean, I think we got back on the 10th of February. Since then, 4 homes have been burnt down, and 1 person has been shot in that settlement. And so what he said to us was essentially that the only thing that could stop this is pressure from the United States. And it felt so terrible to look at him and think of how much time it's going to take to turn the gear so that the United States can do the moral thing and actually apply that pressure. And is he going to be alive? And this is the most shameful thing about it, that too many people are playing politics, like trying to think, how do I walk the line so that I don't upset anybody about saying one thing or another? No, it's an apartheid state. It's a state that allows these conditions, right? And if we believe in universal human rights, then we have to do something. We have to actually develop the policies to change this. And I believe we can't have universal human rights anywhere unless they're everywhere, right? And so this is the guiding principle, I suppose, of why I'm running. Because I see, and it's what I've always done. I've always worked in the nonprofit sector. I've always worked around social justice. And if we don't use our nation and its immense power for things that enable people to live their best lives, then what are we doing? This is, I guess, my position.
And yet, when you came back, and you were also pelted by settlers, from what I understand, they threw eggs at you and your guide while you were there, and you came back, and the response from some of the Democrats who had initially supported you for ballot access was that they withdrew their support. Was that shocking?
It was.
Or expected?
Well, that's a great question, because that actually happened while we were still, like what I just described to you in Susia, we got back to our hotel in East Jerusalem, and then I got a panicked call from a person who was in that meeting saying, you're losing all your support. And I'm like, I am? And so they told me, you know, who and when, and I called that person and I said, what are you doing? I said, you've known me forever. And like, you know me to be a reasonable person. And so what is this? And he had been on the AIPAC tours, and he said that that what I was doing was undermining Israel's ability to create coexistence. Coexistence as he saw within schools in Jerusalem that have Israelis, Arabs and Israeli Jews in school together. I think maybe there are 4 of those schools. But what I said to him, and it was because the word apartheid was used in one of my posts, not by me actually, but by another person, and I agreed with it. That's what did it. That's what made the room change. And I said to him, I'm like, look, I mean, this is what I saw. Like, I saw it with my eyes. And you know, and I said, if you were here, if you actually went to the West Bank, you would see it too, because it's undeniable. It's undeniable. So I don't know if it's willful ignorance or it could be many things, but I would like to think that if more Americans really understood the conditions and saw them in this way, and if more elected officials, I went on a tour that was called Extend. And Extend was created 15 years ago as an extension to Birthright tours. It was created by Israeli peace activists to show the other side of it. And we were led by Israeli peace activists that were former IDF. They're the ones who took us...
Breaking the Silence?
Breaking the Silence, yeah. It was with Yehuda Shul from Breaking the Silence.
Yeah.
That we were walking together, and that's when the eggs came flying at us from settlers who had an IDF soldier standing next to them as they were pelting us with eggs. Anyway, so yeah, I'd like to think, at least, and I believe that we're seeing it in the polls, that if people understand the level of the human rights violations, that they would not want our country to be funding this.
I think people are there already. I mean, 67% of Democrats already agree that Israel is committing a genocide. It's almost become a 90-10 issue as far as like conditioning all aid to Israel or even denying aid to Israel until they stop. And yet there are a lot of party officials with even presidential aspirations that refuse to communicate on this matter clearly. There are some people that very clearly want to run for president that also have used that word, apartheid, which is the truth, right? And it's something that virtually every human rights organization recognized in 2021, as a matter of fact, not even recently. And then they had to back away from that position and said, oh, well, I think it's getting there, potentially. It was a very cowardly attitude, in my opinion. However, this is definitely the majority position. You have talked about, and you also mentioned it in this interview as well, you said it with Prem Talker too, you said human rights don't matter anywhere if they don't matter in Palestine.
That's right.
Do you agree that this is a decent litmus test for Democrats in general?
Yeah, 100%. And it's not just me. I mean, I came to this. When I first started running, the advice that I got from the establishment was never to talk about this issue.
Of course.
That was the first thing. And I was like, okay, never talk about this issue or we can't take back the House. This is the framing. And then you start talking to people, start talking to constituents, and they're like, I don't want to talk to you unless you tell me what you think of this.
Yeah.
Every single time. That these are there are three issues that come up the most. Well, I'll say two. This issue is one of them, and people want to know, like, do the candidates have the courage to call what they see what it is, which is apartheid and genocide. Yeah. And so, I mean, this was a big part of the reason why we decided we needed to go. At least for me, and we led a delegation that included people from like local Jewish Democratic organization, a person from J Street, an Episcopal priest, because people with very different opinions about the issue because we wanted to see it together. And this was the consensus. The consensus is that it is, well, I'll say this, there's disagreement on the word genocide. That's a tough one for some people. They have to work that out, I guess. But like, but the apartheid, I mean, we went to Ophir military prison. We went, human rights lawyers took us into the courts. Like, imagine a Jim Crow setting of like blacks, whites. That's what it is. Yeah. It's Palestinians, everybody else. Different doors, different conditions. And I mean, the fact that there are different, there's the military system for Palestinians, and then there's like a civilian system in terms of the courts.
For Israelis, yeah.
For Israelis. I mean, it's like...
Two roads, different license plates, checkpoints.
Two roads. And it's,
no contiguous state for the Palestinians, even though it's legally their land, and Israel is illegally occupying it, and all of the system is enforced by a military that we actually fund. Yeah. It's unbearable. I want to get back to your district. and this might be somewhat of a tough question, but around 12% of your district is Jewish. And when you got back from your trip, how did you communicate? Is this, because one of the things that people immediately, in my opinion, falsely associate American Jews with is like unconditional support to the state of Israel. Do you feel like that's reflective in your constituency at all, or do you feel like it's more mixed?
It's entirely mixed.
Yeah.
The majority of people who have brought this to my attention, I mean, maybe not the majority, but certainly a strong number have been Jews. I get the most encouragement from lots of people, but a lot of encouragement from Jews who really challenged me, especially in the beginning, to be brave and to just say it like it is, say it like you see it. And so there are some communities that certainly don't like the positions that we take, that take issue with me calling out AIPAC. Even Democrats, it's not great, but there are just as many or more who say, no, we know this is wrong, keep going.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Here's one angle that I always find interesting. So Mike Lawler, the Republican that hopefully you'll be facing off in the general, is funded by AIPAC. And the mainstream Democratic Party candidate who's leading in the early polls is Kate Conley. And she was endorsed by the Democratic Majority for Israel, which is an AIPAC subsidiary pretty much. What does the race look like from your perspective at the moment? And what would you say to the argument that advancing someone who is so close on this issue to Mike Lawler would be a genuine mistake, when this is something that the overwhelming majorities of the Democratic Party's base are demanding a separation from?
I've thought it was a mistake from the minute she entered. I've thought it was a mistake from the minute she prioritized, and I won't say it's just her, it's the DCCC, it's the Democratic establishment, that they read this district as a purple district. They prioritize moderate Republicans. They prioritize independents that they think are, there are a lot of people who were Democrats who are now independents because they've been frustrated with how far to the right the party has gone. So yeah, I mean that there's very little light between Kate and Mike Lawler in terms of a lot of their policies, and especially in terms of this. And again, I think the Democratic Party is completely oblivious to how much people care about this and how damaging it is to keep going in this route. I mean, there's a reason that we lost to Mike Lawler twice, right? In a district that is predominantly Democratic.
And this is a failure that is currently being litigated in this intra-party arguments that we're having. But this was a failure in 2024 as well. And not just on this issue as well. I see Palestine as a good litmus test, but it's also a great way to figure out whether or not a candidate is responsive to the base, or rather have made up their own minds about, constantly trying to find the mythical moderate center. And that was an abject failure in 2024 against an incompetent fascist like Donald Trump, just as it was a failure in 2020 against Donald Trump as well. Or not 2020, sorry, 2016 against Donald Trump as well. So on that note, I'm going to do this. I like to call this the Zoran method.
Okay.
5 key policies that you would be associated with. What would those 5 top-line policies be?
Sure. I mean, I have what we call the suburban progress agenda, and it focuses on housing affordability. Frankly, it focuses on all the things we could pay for if we weren't dropping $1.8 billion a day in the war in Iran. But housing affordability is a critical one. Medicare for all. We have to start treating housing and healthcare as a human right. I mean, it's outrageous. I mean, I lived in the UK for 4 years. I know what it's like to be in a system where your healthcare is taken care of. It's great, and everyone should have that stress taken off of their lives so that people can live their best lives. Universal childcare. We hear from families all the time that they're paying upwards of $24,000 a year for childcare so that they could work or they stop working. If New Mexico could pull it off as a state, we can certainly make it possible so that states across the nation could pull it off. immigration reform. It has to happen. We cannot allow people to be weaponized in this way for the political gain of a fascist party. It just has to stop. And then what I call justice at home and justice abroad, prioritizing human rights here, whether it is carceral reform, it is all these things. I mean, we completely have to dismantle the insanity of the private detention centers and the private prisons that have been built, because when you think about all of those private detention centers that are being built, once immigration is under control, what's going to happen to them?
Yeah.
You know,
they have to be used. Some of them, the private ones, literally have contracts where they have all these beds that need to be filled. It's an insane system.
It is terrifying, and it's got to stop. We have to advance human rights here, and then we have to make sure that our tax dollars do not go to pay for human rights abuses abroad. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants it. We have so much that we can do here, so much that we can, and then I'll say this, like, you know, these guys are so quick, this administration is so quick to go to war. We have such power as a nation, economic power, diplomatic power, political power. Why on earth are we racing to this kind of, to violence, always to violence?
Yeah.
And it's as if violence didn't perpetuate itself. So yeah, these are the things. This is, I think, the vision that we're trying to take, and I know everyone's ready for it. Enough of this constant creation of trauma.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay, all that sounds great, but have you thought about blaming transgender immigrants for all of the problems that your district is facing, and how you are going to be the strongest advocate against migration into the country?
No, that hasn't really.
What about maintaining the most lethal military that's ever existed?
Yeah, that's not super high on the list.
Okay. More money to Israel instead of rebuilding our schools so that we can bomb schools over there.
That seems to be very popular right now, but that is not something I would advance.
All right, so I'm going to do the last thing here, and I'm going to ask you some rapid fire yes or no questions.
Okay.
Okay. Do you believe in Medicare for all?
Yes.
Universal child care?
Yep.
Abolishing ICE?
Uh-huh.
Banning members of Congress from trading stocks?
100%.
$25 minimum wage?
Oh, yes.
Implementing the Green New Deal?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Canceling student loan debt?
Yeah. Imagine all that money back in the economy.
Raising taxes on billionaires?
Oh, yes.
Ending the war in Iran?
100%.
Ending American aid to Israel?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good. I mean, I'm sold.
That's great.
The last question I have for you is, at the moment, we're waging a war in Iran, a war of choice. We're bombing villages in Ecuador. We're blowing up fishing boats off the coastline of Venezuela in the Caribbean all around, and we're holding the head of a sovereign nation in solitary confinement in New York. Looking beyond the campaign, what's your message to people struggling to pay their bills while watching their government belligerently attack the rest of the world?
Look, I mean, if we prioritize people and their ability to live their best lives, and a government that actually works to make that happen, that's what we're trying to bring, so that we don't see all of this. We should not be living hand to mouth, unable to pay rents that are skyrocketing because we don't have enough housing. And at the same time, seeing the tax dollars that we pay into this system go to do all this other stuff that is appalling, that is immoral, that cost an immense amount of money that some people get rich off of, but certainly not the average person in this country. This is what we have to stop. If we prioritize people and their lives, and then use our tax dollars to ensure that we could all live our best lives, just imagine what our country could be, what it would be capable of.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really sad that it has come to this, but I believe that most of us are angry enough to go to the ballots and change this. But there's actually one more thing that I want to say, that it's not just about the ballot, because our political system is so entrenched in terms of funneling money to the candidates that they believe are going to keep the system as it is. And that's why you see my competitors, fully funded, and then people like me who are here to challenge the system, have to rely on grassroots networks to get funding, because we don't take corporate money, they do. We're not taking APAC money, they're taking it. They have the bundlers from the DCCC going across the nation. They've, funneling the money, and then they judge a candidate's valuability based on their money, not on their platform, which is why I'm so grateful that you're here and you're talking about this to bring attention to these corrupt systems, because we have to beat them despite the kind of financial advantages that they have, because when everyone just pitches in $20 or $25, $10, the people can actually beat these systems. A good example is, of course, Mamdani, because if you compare him to Cuomo, they may have raised the same amount of money, but Mamdani had all the people, right?
Yeah.
And Cuomo had like this. Cuomo had like no people.
Yeah.
So empowering people to support campaigns and to get out and vote is the way we're going to take it all back.
So how can people help out? How can people follow your work and get involved with your campaign if they share your vision?
Well, if you see a link in the stream, give. Share that with everyone you know. If you like what you heard, just give.
Is there a website?
Yep, and the website is Effie for Congress, like EFFIE for FOR Congress.com, or just Google me, Effie Phillips-Staley, and and I'll say this: power cares about two things. They care about money and votes. That's why you see all the special interests getting all the attention. When the people start putting their power behind candidates, that's when they're going to start paying attention. That's how we're going to get them to care about Palestine. That is the way to do it.
Yeah.
So, and your platform as well, which I'm thankful for.
I try my best, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.